Welcome back, folks. Welcome back. July 13th edition of Dong City, our 22nd show. We got a jam-packed show today as we review the AL and NL Central. We have some special guests, as you can see. We have John Gray, Matt Bushnell, and Jet the Unabomber Drye. And like I said last week, we have our producer, Rob Martinez, kicking ass in the background. Let me throw it to my boy Vince Mercandetti. Vince, how you doing, baby?
Doing well, Henry. How have you been?
Things are good. Things are good. Busy. Tax season coming up. 2 more days. 2 more days.
Oh, you're almost out of it.
I'm tapped out, man. After this, I got a few returns to do, but I'm over it.
Well, people have only had, I guess, 5 months now to do taxes.
Yeah, you know how that is.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome to Dong City, episode 22. We have the Central Division previews here. Looks like we are dropping guests as we talk, but hopefully they won't be back on camera. We're going to be talking about the AL and NL Central today, covering everyone in the division, going to give feedback. As we mentioned last week, kind of the ground rules here. Henry and I aren't going to go over our division predictions, but we are going to break down every single team's schedule now that they've been released. And we've got John Gray, a Cubs fan here, Jeff Drye, a Brewers fan here, and Matt Bushnell, a White Sox fan here. So plenty of anger and hostility on the show. So let's introduce everyone. John, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
Can't complain. Matt, welcome. I know you just finished up your fatherly duties for the night, so it looks like you've got us now hopefully for the next hour or two.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I got to clear my schedule for you two and for this special show.
Well, you know what they say, Dong City comes first.
Dongs all the way, baby. Dongs all the
way. And Jeff, we hope to see your Unabomber look again. I'm now intimidated by the Brewers for the first time. How are you doing? No, we don't have audio either. All right, well, we'll come back to Jeff once we can see him.
I think we need to petition the Brewers to make this visual, like, their new mascot. Forget Bernie Brewer. This is what we need. This going down the slide right there. Just that look right there. Just camo gray hoodie coming down the slide. We need that.
Way more intimidating. I agree. For starters, for anyone paying attention, last week I had my cold-blooded Yankee shirt representing the East. This week it is Major Leagues representing the Indians in the Central. Henry, looks like you're going with Clemente across.
I'm always going with Clemente.
Yep,
baby.
Clemente on Clemente. Pirates, I get it. Very good. I see John and Matt representing. I don't remember if Jeff is. I guess we'll see. But let's get into it. Rob, if you can pull up our first team here.
Wait, before we continue, I just want to say I'm glad John got to join us because I have a serious man crush on his voice. He's like baseball life's, Barry White. I think he has the perfect voice for this. So, John, thanks for joining us, brother.
I was honored when you messaged me and asked me to join, so been looking forward to it.
Yeah. Regardless of what Jeff and Matt say, whatever John says is going to be correct tonight, just solely based on voice recognition.
That's it.
I agree.
So, all right, here we go. Rob, we've got the Pirates up first. Henry, are the Pirates your favorite Central team just based on Clemente, or have you not thought that far in advance?
I always follow the Pirates. I will always go to Pirate games. I do have family in Pittsburgh. I do love Roberto Clemente. I do like to make fun of them because they make it very easy. They love making bad trades, losing value in trades, trading the Yankees catchers or taking on our catchers. It's a shambles of a franchise, but my ties to them go between the Clemente family and my own family. So that's really the gist of it.
Fair enough. I solely like the Pirates because I love making fun of Bob Nutting.
Makes it really easy.
Yeah, it's the easiest job in the world. Here are the Pirates. This, I guess, affects Jeff and John more than Matt. But, Matt, we also want to get your take on it. Pirates 60-game schedule. Now, a few things about the Pirates. One is that, obviously, they are probably, if I had to guess, projected for last place by anyone who is, making predictions. And the other thing I would say is they're traditionally hot starters. So 60-game season, maybe a little bit of an advantage for them as compared to years past. Looking at their schedule real quick, I mean, I'll look at it a little bit longer, but John, let's start with you as a Cubs fan. Obviously, you've got skin in the game as far as the Central Division, the NL. What do you think of the Pirates? I mean, are they here yet? Are they going to be here anytime soon? Are they just totally being disregarded this year, from a Cubs standpoint?
To be honest, that young middle infield with Kevin Newman in particular, they could be a little surprising this year. But as someone who's looking at the NL Central with intent and interest this year, the Pirates are they're not one of the 4 teams that I can consider to finish in first this year. And I'm sure everybody else is probably in agreement with me. But yeah, like you said, they're fast starters with a 60-game schedule. But I'm just looking at the schedule right now. They could start 0-6, 0-9, having to play the Cubs after those first 2 series. So that would be a rough way to start a 60-game season.
Yeah, that's it's tough out of the gate getting the Cardinals and Brewers right off the bat, and then obviously the Cubs and then even the Twins after that is pretty rough before you get into the Tigers, and then even after that it's Cardinals and Reds. I mean, I think the recurring theme we're going to see in the NL is that you alluded to it, John. There's 4 teams who can theoretically win this division. So all of these schedules to me are probably going to be inherently difficult just because everyone's a contender on the NL side. Matt, we can go to you on the as a White Sox fan, you're gonna have to play the Pirates. It looks like not much. Is it just that 2-game series? I guess.
I think we got them for 4.
Four would mathematically make sense. There they are. Okay, yeah. So right there, 25th and 26th. So you got them for 4. So I mean, the Pirates aren't going to be a major factor for your season. What are your thoughts, I guess, on the NL, Central, but specifically the Pirates here? I know you're in a similar, not the same spot as the Pirates with these young guys coming up. You haven't competed for a little bit. Do you think the Pirates can have an impact, or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't see them being able to keep up with the Reds and what they've added. The Brewers bullpen and starting staff, which I think is going to be sneaky good, is better than the Pirates. I can't find a position on the field where the Pirates are better than any other team in the Central. I think it's going to be a real tough time for them to win 25 games in this schedule.
Wow. All right. So you're taking under 25 there. That would mean over 35 losses.
Yep.
I would agree. I'd say somewhere around 21, 22 wins for the Pirates.
I think that's fair as well. Jeff, we haven't heard from you, and somehow you're upside down, at least by my.
We gotta look at Jeff like this.
Yeah, it's Brewers fans defy gravity. Yeah, there you go. You're good now.
All right. Yeah. No, my computer's slow shit. Apparently, I tried to.
No worries.
It said a whole lot of nope.
We hear you loud and clear. And we see you now fine. What are your thoughts on the Pirates? As a Brewers fan, you guys have been in along the top the last couple of years. Are the Pirates any sort of threat? Are they a team you're going to beat up on? What are your thoughts on that?
That's going to be just like the Astros were when they were in the NL. They're going to be our personal little bitch, and we're going to make them ours.
Brewers fans not playing in the sandbox very nicely so far today.
Not today, motherfuckers.
There we go. I like it.
We're let's see if we win our division this time around. This will be the first time ever that we've actually gone 3 in a row.
Really? That's a good stat. I like that.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
Did you not see it, man?
I just wanted to let Jeff know that since I knew he was going to be on today, that I was wearing my turtle shirt just for him. Just a little tribute for him.
For those who don't know, Rob and Jeff have a Ninja Turtle love affair with one another.
That's right.
Awesome.
Mostly turtle.
So, all right, good. I mean, it seems like we're pretty much discarding the Pirates across the board. Is that fair to say?
Garbage, man.
Yeah. All right. On
I
to
think
the next one.
The best thing we can do is see which veterans are going to be plucked for the August 31st deadline. That's really what's going to happen.
Yeah, fair point. John did mention earlier they've got an intriguing farm system, so maybe we'll see a little bit of that. But I don't take them seriously as making any noise. I know it's been a conspiracy that they could be hot because of how they usually start and maybe sneak into the playoffs. But now the playoffs aren't expanded to like 14 teams. I don't see any chance. So, Rob, let's get to the next one. 10 minutes was longer than I wanted to spend on a franchise like the Pirates, but here we are. On to the Tigers. Speaking of teams we don't need to spend that much time on. We got Miguel Cabrera there. That's about right. Branding from 2006. And, Rob, can we make that schedule a little bigger? Is that possible?
I don't think so. This is as big as it gets.
I will look closely. So they're going to start with the Reds, then they get the Royals, then it's back to the Reds, which I already find odd, just getting Cincinnati that many times right off the bat, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
It looks like they're spending most of their time in the NL until they get to the White Sox around mid-August, so that's intriguing. Jeff, we'll go back to you. Tigers this time on the AL side, again, probably not impacting the Brewers that much. Probably not making that much noise if you ask anyone who would, have thoughts on this.
Yeah, they're not that great of a team, but it's still, they've got a few shining lights in there. If I could use actually my phone to look up some of the players or whatever, but Tigers' team, but they've got their one of their pitchers. He's not so much an ace. I think he's like a number 2-3 guy. I used him a couple times for fantasy baseball. Dude's good for going long innings, but again, you got to surround a person with a team, and regardless, like we've always had problems and the Brewers team as a whole is that there's good pitching, but there's never enough batting to get beat yourself out of a wet paper bag. So I could see them being a little bit better than say the Pirates, but I don't know. Things happen. We could take a look at the Seattle Mariners, that were one of the hottest teams in baseball, and then they just decided to shit the bed.
Yeah, I think they shit earlier than 60 games, though.
Yeah.
Matt, let's go to you. They are going to affect you one way or another because you're going to play them like 10 times. Thoughts on the Tigers? Thoughts on, is Casey Mize going to come up? Any of those younger guys who are a little more intriguing, or are we mostly just same old boring Detroit?
I think at some point they have to call up Mize. His stuff is too advanced to toil in the minor leagues. This is one team I worry about at the end of this year being an issue, and then going into next year for 2021. Matt Manning, Alex Fado, Joey Wentz. That's a rotation right there where these guys are really going to be above and beyond what a lot of the other Central teams can throw out there just stuff-wise. So they're not going to be interesting probably until September, late August, when these kids start coming up to pitch. The hitting's barren. There's nothing really to get too excited about outside of Riley Green. Riley Green offers a little bit of intrigue. I think Candelario has been a disappointment for the most part for the Tigers. Thought he would hit better. He hasn't, and he's not playing third base anymore either, so loses kind of value there. But September, August, this team might be a little interesting to watch.
We're getting a lot of love in the White Sox for the White Sox in the comments section, by the way, so far. So I promise you guys we're obviously going to get to the White Sox. We were taking care of the shit team, so you have to stick around longer.
There you go. See?
Yeah, John, let's go to you for the Tigers. Any thoughts on them?
So I think Matt hit it right on the head right there. The Tigers, in my opinion, are a team that could be good if they were to take the 60-game season and use it as an opportunity to call up some of those young pitchers. Think of a rotation with Michael Fulmer, Matthew Boyd, Matt Manning, and Casey Mize in it. That could be really scary in a shortened season. And it's a team, if they had a couple more bats, could be really threatening. But I think you're right on there, Matt. They don't have the hitting right now. Jeimer Candelario is nowhere near what the Cubs or the Tigers thought he was going to be. And I think in the end, even if they do call up those young pitchers, it'll be the hitting that takes them down this year.
I don't think they have the talent pool in the offensive department or the player position. I agree with you guys with the young stars. They do have some young stars coming up. You may see Torkelson skyrocket right away, but if you look at that schedule, they play Cincinnati. They get a break with the Royals, which they'll probably lose 2 of those 3. Back to Cincinnati, St. Louis for 5 games. I see them starting off slow. They'll wait the 9 days for the service time this year?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
something foolish.
6 or
They'll
9
wait.
sitting there.
They'll call those guys up and they'll let them pitch, but they won't make any impact this year. This year will be basically an extended spring training for that young talent, and they'll do so without giving up an extra year free agency. So it's a win-win for the franchise.
Yeah, good points. Pretty fortunate there in September. For the other teams, they play the
Yeah.
Brewers. The Twins could be in it. White Sox, we'll get to them. Indians could be in it. Twins again. All those teams are going to be getting a more decrepit version of the Tigers. I think by then, they're going to be mostly having auditions. I think by September. I think it's going to be that quick for them. So
Yeah, I think this is another team you'll see them trade off a couple veteran pieces just to get
Yep.
something back and mesh with that young team to build in the future.
yeah, for sure. So that's the Tigers. Do we have them? I mean, I've got Pirates in last and probably Tigers in last. It's,
I agree with that.
yeah, I think they're having repeats. Rob,
Yeah.
let's get our next NL team. Oh yeah, right. Okay, so this becomes intriguing, and I won't start with my own thoughts here. We know my Reds love affair. Jeff, let's go back to you here. Why don't you start us off on the Reds, because this is the first team that might give you guys some problems.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt in my mind they're going to get fits. I mean, issue with that is they've got a decent rotation. I mean, their bats are just huge, man. I mean, picking up Moustakas from us. Signing Moustakas off free agency. I mean, it's a decent bat to have. I mean, he doesn't really, he doesn't hit for average, but he also, he hits for pop. He's got power, as you can see from last season or whatever. And I mean, all around, I think they're just a really well put together team. I could see, us fighting back and forth, just to, try to take the division spot. I mean, it's going to be a hard team to beat. I can't think of really any horrible thing to really say about them. They're just really good. They're scary good. I would definitely see, if I don't see my team going, I could definitely see them taking it all.
Okay.
They have that possibility.
You're going to circumvent the whole Cubs-Cardinals thing, say it's a Brewers-Reds division.
You're damn right it is.
Okay, I like that.
And with you even saying with like the Cards or whatever, Cards have always been that team that, regardless, that they're a good team every year, but the problem is that they usually wait till later in the year to all of a sudden find whatever magic that they have up their ass and pull it out, and then they end up finding themselves in the playoffs. But I think
they do find that magic though, always.
Yeah. It was
I don't know how
it seems like they always do it.
But they do it. But I personally think we're at a too short a season that they may end up just shooting their foot off, just for the fact it's just there's not enough games for them to actually build some momentum. Not saying that they're not good, because they're always good. I don't know how, but they are. But I'm hoping with this shortened season that it'll give us the edge that we need, because you've got one of the better bullpens in baseball. Bullpens that get you out of jams. And I'm happy with what I got for a team. But the Reds, I could definitely see us just giving everybody fits.
We did get some Cardinal news right before we went on the air, so we'll get to that when we get to the Cardinals.
Henry, what do you think, staying on the topic for the Reds, what are your thoughts here? They're one of the more intriguing teams, I think, of 2020, even before this.
I think this team is absolutely loaded. I think this team is going to smack everybody with their bats. The combination of Bauer and Sonny Gray and Castillo is just going to slap everyone with their dicks. This team I love. That talent is deep. They have depth. They have outfield depth up the wazoo. They can make a decent trade, a big trade actually, and at the deadline to acquire something they need and not lose a beat of offense. This team is going to slug everyone to death.
Those are strong words, John. This is your division too. Do you feel as strong? I mean, is this team scary for you, or where do they rank?
At the top of the division,
wow,
in my opinion. I am, as someone who has watched the Reds beat the Cubs up and down what seems like 10 to 15 times a year the past few years. We have always had trouble with them. And I'm just looking at their projected lineup for this year. Remember, they have Shogo Akiyama coming in this year as well. Joey Votto, Eugenio Suarez, Moustakas, Castellanos. I mean, there is just power up and down that lineup. They have Freddie Galvis playing shortstop. And Henry was right on that rotation. Castillo, Sonny Gray, Trevor Bauer, DeSclafani, and Wade Miley is a sneaky good fifth starter as well. I really think the Reds should be the projected favorites to win the Central this year.
I mean, even Shelby. Sorry, I can't talk today. I understand. I frog in my throat. But yeah, forgot. Who was that last pitcher you were just talking about? I keep forgetting his name, but he was on my team.
Wade Miley or
Wade
DeSclafani?
Miley, yeah. I mean, even with Wade Miley being number 5, that dude is still scary good. I don't know where he found that magic when you come up with a splitter, like in mid-pitch, to throw at people. The dude's got a lot left in the tank. More people gave him credit for it in Baltimore. I'm super happy that we got to have what we did.
Matt, what about you with the Reds?
I love this team from top to bottom. I think you could take a look at a guy like Aquino, who's not really mentioned in this lineup, coming in and playing DH, or putting Castellanos at DH, who as a White Sox fan, I really wanted Castellanos. I thought he would have fit nicely in that White Sox lineup. But, man, just you take a look at the rotation. I think there's some names that could be late inning bullpen boosters, because I see this team lacking a little bit of bullpen. I don't trust Iglesias to close out games. But Hunter Green may make his way to the big league roster in September and really make a difference in that bullpen. Mm-hmm. And maybe Nick Ludlow will not finally, but make an appearance this year as well with the shortened season. I think those two, under the radar, their top 2 prospects. You could see them make an impact.
Yeah, this seems like a perfect storm for the Reds. And I had mentioned this last year. The Reds, I think, started like 1-9 last season. And after that, they were a 500 team last year. And people look at them now as this is like a dark horse team who might come out of nowhere. But for me, their floor was already 500. In the NL Central, you don't need to be that much better to probably win that division because it has so many good teams. So for me, they were already in the mix. And then they added a couple outfielders. Sensel's a year older. They've got Aquino, you mentioned, Matt. He won me fantasy like by himself last year. He's going to be there a full season. They've got, I think Votto personally isn't done. I think he could have a little bounce back year. They've got, and then you're starting to talk about the Louis Castillos of the world. He could win a Cy Young. I think I saw his stuff live last year, and he was, to me, after you get to the DeGrom and Scherzers of the NL, he's got every bit the talent that everyone else in that league has to be a front-end pitcher. I think Bauer, now they settled into Cincinnati for a full year, could have a nice bounce back. And then you've got Sonny Gray, who's a total piece of shit. But he, maybe he does something that's not dickless. So this Reds rotation is absolutely there. I think their big Achilles heel was the bullpen, and it's not because they don't have a good closer setup man. It's because they didn't have that deep of a bullpen last year, but, short season, had a really strong finish to last year, got better. They're obviously all in as a franchise, as a mid-market team this year. Reds are a scary team. I'm with you guys on that.
The Reds, they actually didn't hit that well last year. So
good point,
Nick Castellanos is the big addition in that offense, in my opinion. Once he came to the Cubs last year and just started mashing, now you put him in an even better hitter's ballpark.
Oh, hell yeah.
You add that plus the DH. Those two things right there will just boost their offense tremendously. They'll use that DH like a rotating, just mashing.
Same thing. That's
like the old Bugs Bunny commercials, when he's hitting and everybody's just, they come around the bases and they just smash him. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah, if they don't have to throw Aquino or Castellanos in left or right field, get those bad gloves out of there once in a while, that'll really help them.
Yeah, I think they'll use this rotate. They have a lot of defensive liabilities in the outfield, which is why I think they'll rotate DH in outfield,
Yeah, good point. We're playing around with the windows here. I don't know what is going on. In the interim, Rob, why don't you bring up our next team? I mean, it seems like the Reds already in the NL starting to make some noise as a potential division winner, so that's going to be a theme here as we head on through the NL. Let's go back to the AL for a second.
These are the Kansas City Royals.
Kansas City Royals.
KC. Barbecue.
This was so exciting like 5 years ago.
Yeah, seriously.
And
it's a lot of garbage.
Yeah, I'm just looking at their schedule kind of in awe.
There's no way to hide it. It's just they're the Pirates of the AL.
No
Yeah.
shit. Damn.
Matt, why don't we start with you since it is your division in the AL over here? Are the Royals going to be good soon? I don't recall their farm system being very great. I don't know. Give us some thoughts on the Royals.
Every time I look at the farm system, and then even looking at the roster, I don't see things that stick out. I think they're putting their eggs in the Bobby Witt Jr. basket. I think they expect him to come up and kind of be the centerpiece while they're still bad. I mean, this is screaming 5 to 7 year rebuild right now. Brady Singer as their best pitcher coming up through the minors. I'm not ecstatic about his stuff. It is so far away. This team's going to be worse than the Tigers. At least with the Tigers, you can take a look at something, coming up this season. Brady Singer should be up at some point, Jackson Kowar, but there's not anything on this roster that makes me think that they can win more than 25 games, maybe not even 20.
Yeah, that's fair. I think they're gonna be one of the worst. Henry, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you look at that lineup. They start with Cleveland. They start with Cleveland. They go to Detroit. They get the White Sox, Cubs, Twins, Reds, Cards, White Sox. They will be dead in August. August schedule is brutal.
Yeah, quick exit for sure.
I don't think I see them at 20 wins. I can't see them at 20 wins.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't see that August schedule. Now that you bring up, man, that stretch, that sounds like a 3-game win out of that stretch. They'll be lucky to win more than 3 games.
Yeah, the end of July through August is just absolutely that's a bloodbath in the waiting.
Yeah, for sure. John, any finishing thoughts on the Royals? I don't think we have to spend too much more time on them.
They're another thing that's interesting. They keep drafting pitchers. Yes, they're at least 3 to 4 years away from being any kind of a threat in the division. And by that time, I think the White Sox should be well into their domination of the AL Central. But yeah, it's another thing where I would use the 60-game season as kind of an extended spring training to get some of those young guys up, some of those young pitchers, get them some time against major league hitters. And I think we're right on there around the 20-21 win mark.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm with you guys. I don't think this has been rocket science so far with the bottom dweller teams. Let's start to get more into the NL here. Rob, why don't you bring us our next team?
Kind of small, but it's the Cubs.
Oh shit, small is an understatement. I can't see that shit. I'll pull it up on my own screen.
It's the only schedule I can find.
Jeez, you want to translate it to us?
You're fired, Rob.
Man.
Hold on. I got it.
Oh, come on now. Hurry up.
Get the Cubs dong a little bigger here on Dong City.
Actually, I'm going to share my screen. I think I got a decent Rob, stop sharing the screen for a minute. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think I don't know how it'll come across to you guys, but let's see.
And that was from Twitter, so.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah, there we go. All right. Hey, I'll take it written on the napkin over that. All right. So
zoom in a bit.
There we go.
Guys, things you can do with a MacBook. Zoom.
Oh, pun.
Oh, wait. So I could have zoomed my schedule.
Yes.
Hold on. Let me see what tabs Henry's got open here.
Yeah, right. I was looking at that.
The IRS, like as the most boring it could get.
Pornhub Premium is it?
Yeah. John, let's start with you. This is your baby. Before I inevitably disagree with you, what what are your thoughts? I mean, that's a tough start. Brewers and Reds, but we're talking then Pirates, Royals after. So I mean, it kind of evens out. I don't see anything here that's crazy about the Cubs schedule, but what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think the Cubs started like 1-60 last year or something like that. It is a horrible start to the season. We won the first game of the season against Texas, and then went on the road and lost to Milwaukee and Atlanta and everyone like that. So they have to get out to a better start. I'm thinking second or third place. Cautiously optimistic that they could win the division, but that pitching staff is not getting any younger. You're still going to have Kyle Hendricks at the top dominating, but John Lester has been trending downwards. Jose Quintana has been trending downwards. Now, luckily or unluckily, he has to have surgery as well. So you get more innings of Tyler Chatwood. Not good. They lost Cole Hamels to the Atlanta Braves. Yu Darvish has been trending somewhat upwards, but he's not what anyone thought he was going to be. He's more of a middle of the rotation guy. That offense is still pretty good, number 1 through 6 at least.
Well, see, let me ask you that question. So what happens with now that you've lost KB because you opted out of that opted out of the season? What is that going to do for you guys as far as like trying to find somebody for his replacement? Because I mean, that's a big bat to be missing out on.
Wait, who opted out?
Was it, didn't Chris Bryant opt out?
No.
I have not seen that.
No.
He's still there.
Okay. I thought I read somewhere that he did.
No, he'll be gone eventually when they screw up the negotiations. But for now, he's still
you just gave every Cubs fan a heart attack. Congratulations. That's how you fucking troll people. That's how you troll people.
But now we have the Brewers in psychological warfare, too. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to opt out right after Christian Yelich opts out. So.
There you go.
No, oh my goodness. But Chris Bryant, he is the rock in that lineup. It's hard to project, hard to be optimistic about even a guy like Javi Baez that has an O-swing percentage almost 50%. Kyle Schwarber, who strikes out a bunch. They're going to have consistent offense because I don't see that rotation being great in the bullpen. Yes, they added Dan Winkler, but it's been trending down. Really, everybody's been trending downwards since that World Series season.
I mean, you lost him.
A little bit worse. So
yeah, you lost Strop, and you went to the Reds, so you went to an opposite team. So
yeah, Pedro Strop, probably the best reliever the Cubs have had in the last 30 years, and they let him walk away to a division rival. So.
Yeah,
I think you guys. I don't think you guys give Schwarber enough love, man. That dude has increased his defense tremendously.
He definitely has.
He hits everything. I think the Cubs will hit. Yeah, I don't think hitting will be the issue. It's pitching that I think will be the issue.
Yep.
They'll go as much as Javi goes and as much as Chris Bryant goes if he can stay healthy. But yeah, I don't see the Cubs on top of that division.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounded for a second like you were going to support them, and I'm intentionally saving Matt and I for last to evaluate the Cubs. But Henry, do you think, is this a team that could compete for the playoffs, or are they going to finish below 500?
If you look at the schedule, I think they can, rack off a few, a nice couple streaks. I think they'll compete, maybe up until the last few weeks of the season, and who knows? And with that trade deadline so soon. You don't know, Theo is a mastermind at trading, and who knows what rabbit he can pull out of his ass.
Yeah, I'll go, and then I'll let Matt clean up the ashes. But this is the year, and I've said this to Cubs fans in baseball life since they won the World Series. And for the record, again, for like the millionth time, I was rooting for the Cubs in 2016. The entire postseason, Yankees didn't make the playoffs. That was Cubs season for me. I wanted them to beat the Mets in 2015. They didn't. 2016, I was like, let's get this. It's a great story for baseball. It ended in the best way it could possibly end. I was very happy for the Cubs. Mm-hmm. Went to Wrigley, whole 9 yards. So not a Cubs hater, but this is the year that they validate everything I've been saying about Theo Epstein and the crew since that World Series, which is that they shit their pants. They busted their nut way too early as far as All of these trades, the Quintana trade reeked of like, they didn't need to be all in is what I'm getting at every single year. And they were. They had a great, you go into 2016, you win the World Series. You're in 2017, you've got still one of the best farm systems. And they systematically start trading all of their top prospects. And it produces basically average to little results each time. Quintana came over. He's, a 3-4 starter at best. Darvish comes over, great second half last year, terrible until then. Lester, obviously fantastic, but he's getting old. Chatwood's terrible. Kimbrel was terrible. All of these trades that they've made over the years have just not been great. Cubs fans usually won't admit it. They usually won't admit Jason Hayward's overpaid. That wasn't a great contract, even though he's a little better last year. They won't admit a lot of things. But the fact of the matter is, like was alluded to earlier, Cubs win the World Series. Then they finish around worse. Then they finish around worse. And then last year they don't make the playoffs at all. And now this year I think they're just going to be bad. That's really how I see it. I think they have gotten worse every single year, and they have no one to blame except for their front office. And that's what this season to me is going to validate. I've got the Cubs coming not in the top 3 in the division. That's really how I feel about it. Again, not because I hate the Cubs, but you are going to see exactly what I've been talking about the last few years as far as this franchise has bungled what could have been a dynasty, and now you're talking about a one-hit wonder, and they're going to need a rebuild eventually. And Chris Bryant, unfortunately, might be that chip that has to fall, because I really like their core of offensive hitters, but they're going to have to do something because that farm system's still basically non-existent. They have old pitching, they have lack of depth, and now all you have is your core. So that's it. That's what I had to say. I've been waiting a long time to say that about the Cubs, and this is where we're at. That's how I feel. And Matt, I'm going to guess you don't feel too far off from me, so why don't we hear your thoughts?
Every time I look at the roster, I like a lot of pieces offensively to it, but I go back to a couple things that really hurts this team. One, Addison Russell's not what they thought he would be. Obviously, I think we could – yep. 2016 was a career year, and Addison Russell has never been the same player that they thought he was going to be when they traded Samardzija to get him, which was a really good trade for Theo at the time. Then we take a look at the Quintana trade, and they may not have needed Eloy, and that's fine. I get that, but it felt like you traded Cease and Eloy for Quintana, who I love Q when he was with the White Sox. He was really good as a number 2 behind Sale, and I don't know what it was. Then he goes to the Cubs, and it hasn't been good. It hasn't been terrible, but there's been times where you thought Quintana doesn't even belong on that roster. But this team has aged horribly. They're counting on Jason Hayward. Well, I shouldn't say they're counting on Jason Hayward, but Jason Hayward was really good offensively last year, and I think that's kind of lost on some people. But he's shown over the last years that he's not going to be that good offensively again. It's more like an albatross season for him. Wilson Contreras is really good, but I always feel like he should be playing more games. I'm not sure if keeping him at catcher is the right thing to do. Rizzo has back issues. KB is coming off a shoulder injury that he wasn't right all year. And now Schwarber gets to DH when he's really improved in left field. I don't think they're better than the Reds. I find it a struggle to say they're better than the Cardinals. The Brewers is kind of where I slot this at, like 3, 4. But even the Brewers have the best player on the field when the Cubs play, and I think the Brewers have a much better bullpen. So, yeah, Vince, I don't see this team escaping 4th place, and I don't think they're going to be close to 3rd. I think they'll be closer to 5th than they would be 3rd.
Yeah, I have made the mistake several years in a row now of picking the Brewers for 4th. And then they do something like go to the NLCS. So I'm done with that business. Yeah, I'm done doing that. John, I'll give you a chance. I don't know if you think we're far off base here for being too hard on them, or if you're relatively in agreement. But do you disagree with anything Matt and I just said about the Cubs as a franchise?
Not at all. And I see that in a lot of places, the unwillingness to accept that the front office could do anything wrong because, Theo is basically Jesus who brought us a first World Series championship in 108 years. So how could he do anything wrong? The fact is, the Jason Hayward contract was terrible. Yes, he is a Gold Glove defender, and yes, he has improved offensively lately, but he's still not worth what is he getting paid, $22-23 million a year.
Yeah.
You Darvish, that contract is horrible as well. And you see a lot of people saying, well, we don't need you Darvish to be anything more than a number 3 pitcher. Well, you're not paying him to be a number 3 pitcher. You're paying him to be an ace. You can't keep giving out bad contracts and expect good results for it. Now I know nobody's perfect and can read into any of those things, but that I'm afraid is going to keep them from signing a guy like Chris Bryant to a long-term deal. And you mentioned Chris Bryant's injury problems, but yeah, I mean, he still had a 135 WRC plus last year, 4.8 WAR, even coming off of a shoulder injury. He's still great. Javi Baez is still great. Anthony Rizzo's as consistent as it gets. Wilson Contreras, you're right. They need to put him in the lineup more days. He can play the outfield as well, and I think you're going to see Caratini go in there and catch some days and give Contreras some days off to have him play DH. I think you guys are right on with the analysis. This team has been declining the last 4 seasons. I still want to be cautiously optimistic, but I would not be surprised if they finished anywhere from 1st to 4th.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point with the Cubs, and that is that it reminds me of the old Reggie Jackson Thurman Munson feud when Reggie said that Thurman stirs the drink, but he stirs it bad. That's how I felt about the moves that the front office has made. Not that any of them have been awful. Like, you guys don't have an Ellsbury contract on that roster. I mean, the Yankees don't either.
Tyler Chatwood at $13 million a year is not great.
Hayward would probably qualify for that.
I don't think it's as terrible as Ellsbury. Like, Hayward's still producing something, which is my point. Like, they don't have an albatross contract. They have a lot of contracts that their players are not making the value of their contract. And you add up enough of those with the Cubs, even with their higher payroll, that's where you start to, like John said, this is going to cost you one of those core players. I don't think you can lock up Rizzo, Baez, and Bryant with guys like Hayward making $22 million, be an average player, and Darvish being a middle rotation arm being paid like an ace. That's when you start to see the dynasty fall. That's when teams start to get stuck in that purgatory of mid to low 80 wins.
It would not be surprising if the Cubs falter early if you see someone like Wilson Contreras get dealt at the deadline for prospects. I think he's honestly going to be the first guy to go. To have a catcher like that who's a great offensive piece, I think he would get a lot on the trade market.
Fair enough. Good. Yeah, I mean,
I also think you guys give you Darvish. Go ahead. No, I was saying I think you guys give you Darvish a lot more shit. I think he was much better in the second half last year.
He definitely was.
He's not going to live up to that contract, so you already know that. But you Darvish is more of a 2 than a 3, I think. And I think the way he ended his season, he could have been a candidate for like somebody to just pick it up and just go off. But, to your guys' point about signing a core player, I don't think they ever had a shot at re-signing Chris Bryant. They never did. They never will. That just started off on the wrong foot. Maybe Rizzo, maybe Javi, but they never had a shot at retaining Chris Bryant. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded him this season.
So thanks to that great second half last year, Yu Darvish's Ks per 9 and base on balls per 9 were actually right along with his numbers when he was with Texas. And that was for a full season. The problem is still the home runs with him.
Hey, I am not a Darvish hater either. I traded Matthew Boyd for DJ LeMahieu and Yu Darvish down the line last year, and that worked out as great as it could possibly work out for me. But
Who did you manage to talk into that?
I think Rizzo was the other player that I gave away, so it wasn't as awful as it seems. But Darvish was a key player I was paying attention to last year. But Darvish, to me, is an NL version of James Paxton. There's a little bit of injury concern there. Fantastic second half. He's got that tantalizing stuff. We've seen him, pitch like an ace for stretches. But no one that I know is, including Yankee fans, going to say James Paxton could be an ace this year. Why? Because he hasn't done it over the course of a season. It's silly to say in a shorter season because he really could get hot for 10 to 12 starts. Now he's an ace. But no one's saying it about Paxton. And with reason, Yankee fans are saying we need Paxton to basically be like a 2 at best, but even a 3 in the playoffs behind Tanaka, and he's going to slot in there well. The Cubs don't have that luxury. To me, Darvish has to be a 1 or a 2. And that's a tall price. That's a tall task. So, yeah, I mean, maybe he picks up where he left off, but I think it's unrealistic to say Darvish is going to be like a sub-3 ERA guy because his second half last year was great. I don't think Paxton will be either.
It wasn't just like all of July, all of August, and September. His whip wasn't just under 1. It was 0.8 in each of those 3 months.
Him and Flaherty were the best pitchers in the NL, I think, down the stretch last year for sure. All I'm saying is that it doesn't usually work where they just pick up where they left off when you're a player with a checkered history like that.
Yeah,
like sure. Paxton probably, I think he had like a 10 stretch start where you can probably pull his numbers and they were pretty incredible too. I don't think he's going to be a Cy Young contender this year, but I certainly expect that he could be like that mid-3 guy, ERA wise. So anyway, we'll see. Darvish is a bright spot. I think there's upside there, which is great, but you can't really say that about Lester. You can't really say that about Chatwood. Like, there's just not a lot there that
you
that's going to follow.
Anything about Chatwood. That guy's been hot booty hole for a while, but
yeah, and Cubs fans don't really like him either. So it's
Chatwood. Chatwood to the Cubs is like Cameron Lowe to the Brewers.
We've all got one like that for sure. Rob, why don't you bring us our next team?
There we go.
Oh, yeah, here we go. From Cubs to the other side of Chicago, the White Sox. This is where Matt gets a little excited. Let's look at the schedule, Matty. We got, looks like those first games are fake, but then we go to the Twins, Indians, Royals, and then we're going to the Brewer. I mean, I'm looking at this July, it's par for the course. I don't think anything crazy. You get some nice breaks in there. September, you're ending kind of tough. That's my takeaway here. You've got Twins, Reds, Indians, Cubs to end the season. Cubs may be completely shot by then, but I have the belief that those inner city rivalries are always tough regardless. Like, the Mets could suck ass and they're still going to give the Yankees a bunch of problems. So I imagine it's the same. But Matty, what are your thoughts here with the White Sox? I know we've spoken offline and I'm kind of surprised by your thoughts, but why don't you share them for everyone?
First of all, I love the team. I think they're going to be successful this season, but big picture, we kind of talked about how the Cubs took that 1 year and kind of mortgaged everything for it. Not totally like the Cubs, but this year is like the worst possible scenario for the White Sox. One, they're going to end up giving service time probably to Andrew Vaughn, which in 5 years, he's probably going to be the best first baseman in all of baseball. So you would kind of hope to hang on to him longer. I just too many of the young guys are going to be coming up, and it's just something that I would hope they could hang on to a little bit longer, because you can't lock all these guys up to long-term extensions.
I was going to say, do you think that Vaughn could get an Eloy type deal or no?
I don't think Vaughn would take it.
Okay.
I think with Eloy, he plays the outfield, which is a little bit more taxing. Vaughn already got paid, pretty decent money. I mean, Eloy came over on a pretty modest contract from the Dominican when the Cubs signed him. It wasn't, something huge. So Vaughn was a third pick. I think he got something like $7 million guaranteed already. So Vaughn has money. He can kind of wait this out a little bit. So that worries me slightly. But Nick Madrigal is going to lose a year of service time, because I am positive if this team's going to compete and win this division this year, Nick Madrigal has to end the season playing second base. If he's not their starting second baseman, they're not winning this division. So that's an issue. I think Dane Dunning has to be up. I would not be surprised if Jonathan Stever comes up. But it's loaded. You take a look at the guys that they can have come up, and I've even mentioned Michael Kopech because he opted out this year, which hurts them. But You know, it's a personal decision, so I can't hold it against him. But when you start looking at the meat of this team, Moncada, Eloy, my MVP pick, he's going to win a couple MVPs before the end of his career, and that's Luis Robert. I don't think he gets enough love and he gets talked about enough. He is going to be the best outfielder in all of baseball in 5 years. And I am very bearish on him, but I just love every part of his game. And I go back to what John said. I mean, in 5 years, this team's going to be running this division. And I'm kind of selfishly looking at years 7 and 8 and 9. But when I look at this White Sox team, if Giolito is the real deal and last year wasn't a mirage, which I don't think it was, I think they have to move Lopez to the bullpen. But with Dunning, Stever, Dallas Keuchel, Gio Gonzalez, they got some horses to get through this season and really mess a lot of stuff up. I'd be surprised if they don't make the playoffs this year.
You said you'll be surprised if they don't make the playoffs?
Yeah, I think this is a playoff team with the expanded playoffs.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not expanded.
It's not. They're sticking. Okay, then yeah. If it's not, I think it's really that last wild card spot's going to come down to them in Cleveland, and okay. I'm probably going to lean Cleveland a little bit just because of the rotation.
Okay. Yeah, that was actually more optimistic than I was expecting. You mentioned the part about how you didn't think the 60-game season favored them, but you did not mention the part where you thought they were still a playoff contender anyway. So good to know. Henry, what about you with the White Sox? I know that the AL, that second wild card to me is kind of the only potentially exciting part about the AL, but what are your thoughts on that?
I actually love the White Sox collection of talent. I know I give Matt a lot of shit in our private chat, but I do love that collection of talent. I will differ with Matt in the sense that he thinks this season was a bad thing for them. I think it's actually a good season for them because I don't think realistically they would have competed over a 162-game season. But I think in a 60-game season, they'll hold their guys back to get that extra year of service time and then let them play. We're going to see all these guys this year, and they won't lose, and they're going to lose that extra year. The Sox will keep the extra year because of it. And I think the one word to me that stands out with this team that has a lot of potential is fun. I think we're going to look at the White Sox, and I think they're going to be a fun team to watch. I think they're young, they're athletic, they slug. They're just going to have a ton of fun. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Rob, give me a second.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a great point, Henry, because this team is going to be a lot of fun between Tim Anderson.
I love this team. First, look, this happened 2 days ago, and I thought it was the greatest thing. Let me share this. This was 2 days ago. This was who's this? Vince? Matt.
That's my guy, Luis Robert.
Luis Robert. And the best thing about that shit was a home run. And we're gonna see a lot of that happening.
That was the White Sox franchise from 2006 to now.
Yeah, that team is gonna have a lot of fun. I don't think they're going to win the division. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I think they're going to grab a lot of headlines. They're going to turn a lot of heads. They're going to make a lot of noise, and most importantly, they're going to have a shitload of fun doing it.
Okay, yeah. Look, it's a young team. It's a loaded team. John,
before that, I will say Michael Kopech has been getting a lot of shit, and I think that's unwarranted. Mm-hmm. That man has been dealing with depression, anxiety.
Completely agree.
He's been dealing with a lot of stuff. He's recovering for Tommy John, and a lot of fans. Yeah, right. It's mainly fans because, the cesspool of the internet is in Facebook comments. And they've been giving him a lot of shit. And I think he doesn't owe anyone any explanation for taking the season off and opting out. So, Kopech, do your thing, baby. I'm glad you're not with Boston anymore.
Hell yeah. Get some, man.
John, what do you think about your crosstown rivals?
I think I don't want to just completely continue to echo what Matt has been saying all night, but if I could parallel this to a Cubs example selfishly, I think White Sox fans should be feeling about the same as Cubs fans felt going into 2015, the year where they won 97 games, third most in baseball, and went to the NLCS. I would not be shocked if the White Sox made a deep playoff run, and I would not be shocked if they finished third in the division. It all depends on how that young talent plays. And I think you guys are right on. They're going to be a fun team to watch. No matter how many games they win, White Sox fans should be very, very optimistic about their future.
Yeah, it's you bring up the 2015 Cubs. I can totally see that comparison. Wouldn't surprise me. I look at this team a lot like the 2008 Rays, and it's not to say that I think they're going to go to the World Series, but it is to say that this team's talent that's up now, and James in the comment section, does mention that what's left behind what's coming up now is not great anymore. It's not that top 1 or 2 farm system that the White Sox have had, but that's because they're graduating all their players.
Right.
But the talent that's on that major league roster now is so unbelievably good with ceiling that it could be like those 2008 Rays, who basically just had like 6 or 7 like top 100 prospects just all come up together. And we saw the results. Now the White Sox have a little bit more money than the Rays did, but Kopech, Matt, I mentioned this earlier to you in the day. Kopech opting out really, really hurts, I think, because he was so good before his injury so quickly that I really felt paired with Giolito, that could have been the 1-2 punch the White Sox needed to carry them and then also maybe even make some noise in the playoffs. And now you're losing half of that. They've got Keuchel, they've got Lopez and Gio, who I think, they're not gonna pitch you out of games. But nothing has the upside Kopech has besides Giolito. And then you've got Dylan Cease, who, Matt, I hate, but I'm not dumb enough to think his career is over because he had a bad couple of months.
Well, I think Cease gets a bad rap. I think Cease is actually going to be really good. I think he's extremely underrated when it comes to flying under the radar. His stuff is almost as good as Kopech's. I mean, he can hit triple digits, but when he throws that fastball as hard as Kopech does, he loses the control. So he lacks the control of that fastball that Kopech has. But other than that, Cease's curveball, if he ever gets that thing honed in, I mean, it's going to be a nightmare for hitters. But I wanted to bring something up, and I don't think he gets enough credit for all of this, and that's Rick Hahn. For my money, I think he's in the top 5 best GMs in all of baseball. And I referenced the Chris Sale contract that got them Moncada and Kopech, the Jose Quintana contract that got him Eloy and Cease. Now he locked up Eloy. He locked up Luis Robert. He locked up Moncada. The Abreu contract, that was more of a thank you to Abreu, more so than anything else. He transformed the farm system for this team. He has done an absolute magnificent job, and he's built this thing. So my hat goes off to Rick Hahn.
I also think the signing of Yasmani Grandal helps that rotation.
Oh, God.
That signing I love. I completely agree.
Forget the offense. I think what he will do with that pitching staff, with that young pitching staff, that is money well spent, even if they don't compete this year.
So a story that happened over the weekend, Dane Dunning was making his his start in the inter-squad game, and yet Grandal, Dunning gives up 2 hits to start his game. Grandal goes out there and tells him, hey, you need to hold your change up this way. Hitters are picking it up. Dunning doesn't give a hit up for the rest of the 3 innings, scoreless innings. No walks, no more hits, 1 strikeout. So that's what Grandal is going to do.
Yeah, those guys make a difference for sure. The White Sox are going to be interesting to me. I mean, I like their bullpen last year. I mean, I think their bullpen was very favorable last year statistically, but it's deep, and that's one of the things in this day and age. It's not good enough to just have a dominant closer and setup man. You need 4 or 5 good relievers to be a good bullpen modern day. Pitching staff is there. I mean, like I said, Kopech being out, I think, is a major blow to a young team like this, where kind of everyone needs to perform for them to reach anywhere near a ceiling. Abreu, I really didn't mind that contract, and I didn't mind it because he's a run producer. In the modern day metrics, I think that gets lost a lot of times, but there are certain guys, Miguel Cabrera is another one who comes to mind, they have a knack for driving in runs. And Jose Abreu does that. He's a veteran on a very young team, and I don't mind signings like that to kind of lead into that next generation, especially if there were White Sox who had like 17 cents committed to the payroll until 2 years ago. So if they can afford to do something like that, They brought in Edwin. I don't know what kind of role he's going to have, but we'll consider it depth. And you're right. Yeah, second base right now a little shitty, but you've got Madrigal waiting. So that's a big name. Moncada when he comes back from COVID, he's got third base covered. Tim Anderson, one of the fun guys baseball needs, and a guy who can put the ball in play, which is another thing baseball needs. Or at least for average.
His defense. That's the one thing that kills me with Tim Anderson. His defense has to improve. He cannot be this bad defensively again.
Yeah, and the White Sox outfield could have some defensive issues. I mean, the defense on the White Sox isn't great. The rotation is not going to be great. I think they're going to throw a lot of shit at the wall and see what sticks this season. But you've got Rodon coming back from injury. You lost Kopech, so 2021 could be a lot different for them. Yeah, I mean, in that sense, I see a lot of – you got Nomar Mazara. I like that signing a lot too. I forgot that happened this offseason. The White Sox, yeah. John, as far as the results go, I agree. This team's very similar to the 2015 Cubs. I could see them sneaking into the playoffs, maybe giving a team some problems. With the Twins, we'll get to them later. You never knew who was going to win that AL Central. Twins tend to be Jekyll and Hyde every other year. So
I think it was smart to load this team with veterans, the right character veterans. Encarnacion re-signed Abreu. They brought in the right mix of veterans to make sure that these young players know what they're getting involved with. So I like those moves.
Yeah, and Matt, to your point, Rick Hahn really did spend a lot of time ripping everyone except Brian Cashman, of course, off in trades. He had like a run there where he just collected talent from everyone who was desperate. And now you're going to start to see that, I think, over the next I would say this starts the White Sox window. 2021 is going to be a scary year. 2022 is going to be an even scarier year. And then we'll kind of go from there. So those are my thoughts on the White Sox.
We'll have to kick Matt out of the chat by 2022.
Yeah, I don't want to. Give me one title before then. I'm okay. I'll be happy for Matt. You don't give me a title before then, he's not allowed in. Jeff, we haven't gotten to you yet. What do you think of the White Sox?
I mean, yeah, the White Sox, man. I mean, they've been I followed a little bit along with since the Sale trade or whatever, and been absolutely impressed. I mean, the only hole I see in the wall or holes I see in the rotation is it's going to be Keiko and Gio. Gio's getting old, so he may be coming down. He was awesome for us. I don't know what Stearns found out. What the Stearns does, like he finds players and he gets the best out of them. So I'm kind of hoping for you, Matt, that that with your leadership, or whatever, you can get you can get something good out of Gio, because obviously he's done pretty well. Keiko, I mean, he's been kind of an up and down guy, but I mean, he may give you your veteran presence for as like Henry was saying, for some of these younger guys to learn from. But I mean, it's not a horrible rotation. I mean, I would say it's definitely better than the Pirates any day.
Yeah, I mean, you got Giolito leading the staff, Jeff, and I agree. I think Keiko will add more than just someone that is going to throw up the wall and see what sticks. He's going to provide a little bit of pitching psychology, and Keiko doesn't have commanding or dominating stuff, so he's going to teach these guys, hopefully, like a guy like Lopez, who needs control, something horrible. I mean, Ronaldo Lopez walks like 5 guys every game. So if Keiko could just teach him how to craft his pitches and pitch within the strike zone, well worth the price of admission.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Exactly. You get because then you get your catcher, with Yasmani, with these young guys too. Like we've all been talking about, having a guy that's considered one of the greatest framing pitchers in the league. It's just going to be good things for these guys as they're, moving up the chain. And then it's, like we're talking about the Kopech situation, it really sucks for him that, be doing super well and successful and then blow your arm out. Now you got all these fans that, obviously don't understand that, hey, like this dude's going through some emotional in a big emotions in a big way. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like, with, like we could talk like Zach Greinke, emotional head case. He came to Milwaukee. He was pretty decent. I mean, I was kind of upset with what we got out of him, because the first time I actually seen him play live, he looked like he was running out of gas every time he went up there. But I think it was just more of the mind over matter situation, that he was just a head case. So it's just I'm hoping for nothing but success for Kopech, man. Being able to throw triple digits in your starting pitcher. I'd love to have that in my rotation, regardless.
Jeff, let's stick with you going into the Brewers. I forgot to mention one thing about the Reds. If you watch the MLB schedule release when it came out, the Reds actually have the statistical easiest schedule in all of baseball based on last year's results. And I say that to say this, Jeff. I'm looking at the Brewers schedule right now. I mean, that is a painful start to the season. You've got Cubs, Pirates, who are – I hate playing teams who suck early in the year because they're still, like, have a soul. So you've got the Cubs, you have the Pirates, and then you get Cardinals, White Sox, Reds, Twins, Cubs again, Twins again, and then Pirates, but then Reds again. Like, I mean, that is tough. What are your thoughts on the schedule?
Yeah, here I'm just waiting for my slow-ass computer to be putting stuff up. I mean, it's going to be – looking at it right now, I mean, seeing that, we've got, I got Cubs, Pirates playing. I mean, we could get some pretty easy wins out of some of these, but in the end, though, too, is that as long as we can start out hot early, which has kind of been our Achilles heel, like we get things going pretty decently and start getting a run going. But then with 60 games and stuff, we have to be ready to win now. We're throwing literally, if we have to throw a hater out there like Council's been doing to go get lockdown wins for multiple innings, I mean, I don't want to see it happen, but I mean, there is no turning back. It's literally all aboard. Either you're getting on or you're getting the fuck off. But having can't think today. Having guys come back like here we go. Just pulling stuff up. I woke up here about an hour ago, but
you got Yelich coming back. That's one.
We got Knebel coming back, dude that was our closer, throwing triple digits. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's going to be a lot of heavy laying on our rotation, and I would say a lot of teams rotation or bullpen. I'm sorry, not rotation, but a lot of bullpen to get to get yourself out of situations where we're going to even though we have the new rule with there's no lefty specialists and stuff like that anymore, which our team, which was solely based around our coach, doing. But I mean, yeah, the schedule itself, yeah, it's going to be a little tough. I mean, yeah, the Reds are going to be just absolutely a pain in our asshole. But I mean, I think as long as we can win, if we do a 3-game series, we can win 2, or if we do a 4-game series, we win 2 out of 4. I mean, we can put ourselves in a position to where we're going to be, right in the mix with everything. I'm not worried about being number 1. I'm more happy if I get my number 2 team and then doing what we've always done, be the underdog, and just show up when the game matters the most. So, I mean, it's whatever.
Okay. John, division rival. By the way, is it a division? I mean, I know the Cardinals are the big rivalry for Cubs fans, but is this Brewers Cubs like a legitimate thing? Or is it like Yankees?
It's tough
Orioles?
to say because I'm sure Jeff thinks of the Cubs Brewers as a bigger rivalry than it actually is. But you're right; it's the Cubs Cardinals are more of a thing. But I'd have to say, Jeff, if you were to say who is the Brewers' biggest rival, it's probably the Cubs, right?
Oh, it's always going to happen. It always has been.
Right.
There's really no other team that we've really played against that we really play at our best at. It's always been the Cubs. I mean, Cardinals, they find our number. I don't know. They usually find everybody's number late in the season. But yeah, we've had fits with the Cardinals, but I mean, who likes the Cardinals anyways? Fuck. But yeah. But alluding to what you're saying, man, is we always whenever we play each other, we always seem to get a show every time, because I could think of the last game I went to I was with Felipe. I got to meet him for the first time, and Brett Moore. I mean, we sat there and we watched this game, and it was back and forth between the both teams. We ended up coming out the victor, but still, we're just sitting there giving each other shit if someone gets a run. It's a super good rivalry to have or to see, because we always get something pretty nostalgic out of each other. So
the 2018 game 163, I have a lot of Facebook friends that are Brewers fans, having gone to school in Wisconsin. That was one of the most memorable moments.
Yeah.
I remember how excited they were. We beat the Cubs and won the division back in 2018. In order for them to contend this year, 2 things need to happen. Christian Yelich needs to be the best player in the National League, And Josh Hader has to be 2016 Andrew Miller. He has to be that 2 to 3 inning guy that you can throw out there to lock down games. They do not have tremendous pitching depth, and they don't have the lineup that you see with the Cubs or the Reds in the NL Central. They do have, like I said, potentially the best player in the National League, and they probably have the best relief pitcher in all of baseball. And they have to hit their ceilings if the Brewers are going to contend this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sitting here kind of going through some of their, like, with their infielders, I mean, Orlando Arcia, big one, he has to pull his head out of his ass. Otherwise, I mean, as much as I want to see this guy play, he's got a good glove, but I'd rather see him go to some other franchise and try to get pieces out of him. But a lot of what we've been up to we've been piecing people together and just kind of like making this three-headed monster that we can try to, go out and perform, and it's worked for us so far. I mean, picking up, see here, Jed Jerko, whatever. I mean, he played for the Cardinals. I mean, I don't hate the guy, but hopefully with him coming back, he should be coming to us. Skirton's found something in him, or another one like a lot of people like I've talked to, the Brock Holt. I'm kind of excited to see what this guy does. I mean, dude's been pretty decent as far as what I've heard from everybody out in the AL area, with Boston. Justin Smoke, he's going to be, I think, one of those like, all right, what are we going to get out of him? I mean, are we going to get a good first baseman, or are we just going to get some guy that just swings and misses? And it's, again, what I'm alluding to. It's like we're piecing people together on this team to try to make something out of nothing. And Stearns done a pretty damn good job, but how long is that going to be able to stay relevant? I mean, it's what it kind of boils down to.
Yeah, I always look at the Brewers schedule or the Brewers roster, and I'm just like, I don't understand like why this team doesn't lose 90 games. And
right.
then, like,
it's just some sort of it's like we're becoming the Cardinals or something.
It's a little, yeah. I feel like there's a little bit of market inefficiency that they exploit there. And then guys like Brandon Woodruff turn into good pitchers, and I'm just like, I don't know where he came from. You've got Keston
Jimmy Nelson. Chase Anderson. I mean, how do they get these?
Jimmy Nelson. I rode Jimmy Nelson to I think maybe 2 championships in fantasy.
Well, Jimmy Nelson's is with the Dodgers now, so he's not
right. I'm just saying, how do they get these pitchers, these nobody pitchers, to turn into 2 and 3 ERA potential, Cy Young type?
I mean, and that's why I fucking love David Stearns, man. Have him as coach. He's like he's our Theo Epstein. Like, the dude he knows what to get out of players. But then you put him in a tandem with Counsell, one of a great player to have. I mean, the dude's got a great record. He's got himself a World Series MVP. I mean, this guy just lives and breathes baseball. It's even cooler to be able to have a guy that's from the area coach my team and just, understand what he needs to do to get us out of jams and get players the best we can out of them. I mean, my only complaint about this team is that I'm just hoping Counsell doesn't just go out and try to, blow his wad and just throw Hader out there every time, because we can't keep riding this guy. We're going to end up like Steven Strasburg, a few years ago, where the dude's arm is just absolutely just garbage because we just beat the piss out of it. I mean, but I mean, there's a lot of potential in here. I could definitely, see us using Hader as a long relief guy. But my question is, are we going to do that? Because he's been pretty dominant in the closing role, as far as like we find ourselves in a bunch when we can't get a relief pitcher to figure his shit out. So then we just throw Hader in there for maybe an inning and a half, just to lock down the win, because he's that's successful when it comes down to stuff like that. And then, Freddie Peralta, I mean, dude started off as, starting pitcher, couldn't pull his head out of his ass. He ended up going down to the minors, to go figure his crap out. And then they throw him in the bullpen. But the one guy I really, really, really am excited to see this year is my boy, Brent Suter. I'm super excited to see what this guy does this year. I mean, the dude had Tommy John surgery, went down to the minors, just absolutely killed it. The dude was just phenomenal. Then comes up during our playoff push and just becomes inhuman. like, I don't know where this guy pulled this magic out of, but I love this dude top to bottom. I mean, I'm really hoping this guy figures it out. And I mean, having a lefty that's one of the, trying to think of what it was, between the ball going to the glove and coming back to him, he's one of the fastest guys, to keep, to throwing pitches as far as when it comes to pitching to guys. The dude's just like, he's on top of stuff. He's ready to go as soon as he gets that baseball. I mean, I love this dude top to bottom as much as, some people that don't really have faith in him. I'm super excited, and I kind of hope he actually goes back to the rotation, because I like this dude's arm. I really, really do. And I think this year he's going to come out the woodwork, and he's just going to keep moving forward as far as, with the way that works.
Yeah, I think you got a lot to be excited about. I'm just looking at that August schedule, and that's a grind, man. That's a big, big grind. And unless Yelich does Yelich things and carry you guys, I can't see you, getting out of that meat grind of August.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much competition out there as far as, like, we've got the Twins in our division now, which they've got guys that can hit baseballs, but
the Twins are gonna mash the league to absolute death. And it's like I said, combining the two leagues, the two divisions in each league, I think some teams get affected by that, and I think you guys are one of those teams.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not going to disagree with any of that, but I mean, a lot of it I think is going to be is going to fade, or sorry, a lot of it's going to fall on us as far as our pitching rotations, if they can figure out how to strike guys out right away. Because if they don't, then I don't see us going anywhere as far as maybe trying to get ourselves getting ourselves in a wild card position, maybe bouncing ourselves out like we have past couple of years. But like I think we're a team. We're just like right at that ceiling. We just got to find I think we need maybe one or two ace pitchers, or I should say like a solid ace. I think we can find that Brandon Woodruff, but we need a very solid 2-3 guy. And I think when we do that, we can break that ceiling and actually maybe get to a World Series. I mean, we were one game away.
That trade deadline is going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. We've got a few pieces I think that we can definitely offer, but I don't think it's as far as like, what we do have. A lot of, I mean, again, what I've been saying is we're kind of like pieced together. So I mean, we got a few guys out there, but we don't have very many. It's going to be, if we want to get rid of a guy, we're going to give him a guy that's got a contract just for this year. That's what Stern's has been doing these past 3 years. Yeah. It's just finding guys and signing 1-year deals and getting the max out of them that we can. So again, I mean, I definitely don't disagree, but I mean, it's one of those situations. It may work out successful for us. It may not.
I think the next team we're going to move on to is another one of those teams that are going to kick you guys out, the Indians. So,
man. Yeah, Matt, we haven't heard from you. Quick thoughts on the Brewers, and then bring us back to the AL here with the Indians, and let us hear what you think about that.
Rob got the Joe Boo hat. Yep.
The Brewers, I think, have the best bullpen in the Central Division. I know a lot of people think that Hader is a one-man bullpen, but like Jeff said, I love Suter. I actually like Peralta. Little side story. I took my son to his first baseball game, and Freddie Peralta came over. Only one that signed his baseball. So love Freddie Peralta.
Nice.
Good dude. And I love Alex Claudio too. So I think that bullpen with Corey Knebel coming back is going to be a lot better than I think a lot of people are giving credit for. And Milwaukee's going to do Milwaukee things and definitely compete for a playoff spot. Cleveland, this team, it just totally depends on where Francisco Lindor ends up at the end of August. If he's still on Cleveland's team, Cleveland's probably going to be in the hunt. I just can't see them. They have a very flat line. Like, I don't think there's a lot of upward mobility, and I don't think there's a lot of downward mobility unless they start trading off pieces like Carrasco and a couple of the other guys, of course, with Lindor. But like a team with the White Sox, they have a really high ceiling, but they could also kind of have a really low floor. So this team, I think, is somewhere in the middle. I don't even consider them for the division. I think the Twins will just bash kind of what Henry said, just bash people's brains into submission. And I don't think Cleveland has that ability to hang with some of these teams offensively. I think they lack too much offensively to be a factor.
Yeah, that's where I come in, Matt. I don't think the Indians are just boring. That's the best way I could describe them. I don't think their ceiling is particularly as high as the Twins or even the White Sox. I think the White Sox have a higher ceiling than the Indians do. Is it a lower floor? Probably. I don't think the Indians are going to embarrass themselves. I don't know if anyone would think that. You've got Clevenger and Bieber at the top. They're both legit. Plutko, I kind of like. Carrasco, I don't know what to expect from him, but the Indians will always have pitching. They're one of those organizations that pull stuff out of their ass with pitching. That's why the Yankees took Matt Blake from them. I mean, they've always been able to develop starters. I thought the bullpen overperformed a little last year. It was a really, really good bullpen for a long time. I just don't see that happening again. Brad Hand is fine, but there's not a lot of guys in that bullpen where they're gonna scare me too much. And then you kind of get to that lineup, and the lineup is a whole lot of it's okay. Like, Franny Reyes, could he hit 45 home runs? Sure. Lindor, like you said, could he have an MVP season? Sure. Can Ramirez have a recovery? Sure. But it's not sexy like the White Sox, and it's not proven like the Twins. And I think that puts the Indians in a weird central purgatory where they might finish second and finish far away from a wild card, or they might get into the wild card, but they're like somewhere in there to me. They're somewhere between second wild card and just completely mediocre 500 and completely forgettable. So John, where do you fall on this with the Indians? Do you think they have a shot at the division with the Twins and White Sox there, or not so much?
And I'll talk about the Twins more when we get to them. I'm not as high on the Twins as maybe everybody else. But you're totally right. I think the White Sox, I hate to go back to talk about them again, but I think the White Sox with their roster as it currently has the highest ceiling to become maybe the best team in baseball if everybody performs up to it. I mean, just look at their roster. And the Cleveland Indians, you're right there. Their ceiling and floor are so close together that they're probably a second or third place team, and that's it in their division.
Yeah, I completely
They're
agree
still going to
with
be good. They're going to be around 500, anywhere in between 29 and 33 wins this season. Could they compete for a wild card? Maybe. And yes, Bieber and Clevenger are pretty darn good 1-2 to have in that rotation.
Yeah, for sure. Henry?
I'm the complete opposite of you guys. I think while the White Sox team is fun, this team is boring as hell. But this is a very talented, boring team. This team is loaded. I think this is a very well-rounded team. It's not just Clevenger and Bieber. They have Carrasco, they have Plutko, they have Jeffrey Rodriguez. Then you have a guy like Zach Plesac, who's just sitting there waiting for somebody to falter so he can step in. He'll probably be moved into the bullpen until they can get it together. I like this Cleveland Indians team. They're boring. They play hard, but you have guys like Carlos Santana, Jose Ramirez. Francisco Lindor is probably behind Trout in terms of the best player. Mercado, Jake Bowers, Tyler Naquin, these dudes, Delano Shields are still playing, but this team is well-rounded. Domingo Santana is on that team. He's always hitting. You look on the standing, and this dude is always hitting for power, or he's hitting for average, or he's doing something amazing. And while this team may be boring, I think that they will compete and they will make some noise.
How much of this are you saying because of your Lindor obsession?
I am absolutely obsessed with Francisco Lindor. I think if he come to the Yankees, he would be the face of baseball, and he would run everything in the MLB. But this has nothing to do with that.
As Francisco Lindor is my favorite player in all of baseball, and if he went to the Yankees, he would become my least favorite player in all of baseball.
I think Francisco Lindor to the Yankees is a marketing dream for MLB.
I second that with Henry. Lindor, he's my favorite shortstop in baseball right now, and going to the Yankees is just
in terms of talent.
Yeah,
I just think this Indians team is loaded, but they're just boring. So it's not they're not sexy. They're not like the White Sox, they're not like the Yankees. You don't look at those names and say, "Oh, this team is sexy." They're going to be consistent. They're going to compete, and they're going to be right there the whole time. And I'm interested to see what we get from Carrasco coming off of his surgery for Hodgkins.
Yeah. Well, I got to jump in here real quick, Henry. I don't. This team doesn't scare me at second base with Cesar Hernandez and Christian Arroyo. First base, Carlos Santana's another year older. Jose Ramirez, all purposes aside, high home run guy, not more than that, I don't think. And then their outfield's a bunch of trash. Jordan Luplow, Oscar Mercado, Greg Allen. Mercado. I don't think he produces enough power.
Jake Bauers, man. Jake Bauers, that's a talented dude.
Yeah, it's talent, but then you're also looking at Delano DeShields possibly starting in center field for you.
This team is going to go as far as that rotation, honestly. And Clevenger is one of those top 3 guys, young guys that I look at and I say, if I'm any team in baseball, I'm giving up the farm for him. It's him, it's Flaherty, and it's Castillo from the Reds. To me, those 3 guys.
Yeah, right. I'm a little bit more like you, Matt. This team. Yes, it has talent. That's why it has a floor that's probably 500 or thereabouts. But I just don't see it. I think it's not that I think strategically a short season will hurt them. It's more that I think if the Indians have a bad first 20 games, they may be big sellers. Only because they have to be, because they're gonna have to piss or get off the pot when it comes to Lindor soon, and they're gonna have to do with a couple of their other players, especially that bullpen. They've got some veterans there, so it could blow up quick for the Indians. A lot would have to go right for them to win the entire division, and I'm not saying a lot doesn't have to go right for the White Sox either, but the White Sox kind of have more mistakes built in that they can work with because I think they have a more depth. Indians do have a couple of prospects who could be interesting. And, of course, you've got the Twins, who we'll get to in a second. But we'll see. If they won the division, would it shock me? Absolutely not. It would probably be based on the pitching, like Henry said, and sort of that the guys we know who can perform with the hitting.
I do agree with you about Lindor. I think they have a tough decision, and they have to get this one right, trading him at the right time for the right value. They have to get that right.
Dodgers.
He's done after 2021, right?
2020, he's a free agent, so yeah.
Yeah, so in my mind, I'm always a huge fan of trading a guy right before his walk year, as in not a rental, but with one more year left on the deal. I feel like that's when you maximize the value. So Indians better be real confident where they are, and if I'm right, they're probably going to be right around 500 and not real confident where they are come that deadline.
Come to New York, Frankie. We love you, baby. Come on.
So
if the Indians can get competitive and maybe call up Nolan Jones and Tristan McKenzie, they could make things interesting. And Henry's right; they are a not sexy team that could be there at the end. I'm high on the White Sox this year. I really am.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Rob, let's switch it over to the Cardinals, then we'll go to you, Jeff. You can give us your thoughts if you would like on the Indians, and then also give us your thoughts on the defending NL Central champion Cardinals.
I mean, I'm not really super 100% and really know a whole lot about as far as Cleveland and South. I mean, I had Shane Bieber last year. He was fantastic for fantasy, so I kind of hope he does some good stuff. Buddy, we all know him, Nick or whatever. He was high on Clevenger last year, and he pitched his brains out. I think he had some injuries last season, if I remember right.
Yeah, injury in the beginning of the year, and then he was pretty solid after.
Yeah, pretty solid after. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about this team, so I mean, I really don't have a whole lot to say. If you guys think he's boring, he's boring. They're boring. But Francisco Lindor was another one. I guess the only thing I really I should comment on is Jose Ramirez. I was told up and down by everybody in fantasy, this is a guy, if you want to go for a guy I forgot what his position is. Third base, or was it shortstop?
He's third base.
Third base.
Third base, yeah.
Third base, okay, yeah. He's a good third baseman to have. I take him my draft last season, and the dude just shits the bed.
Yeah, he had a bad year.
Nothing, and then he didn't even. And then as the season went on, he was really nothing of what he was the season prior, and just kind of just a straight booty hole for him, and ended up dropping him. I'm interested to see what Domingo Santana does. I mean, he was one of our prospects that we brought up. He had a good bat, just a terrible, terrible glove. So I guess that's really looking at this team. That's kind of only really what sticks out to me as far as what I know out of it. I guess.
What about the Cardinals? Because that hits more close to home as a Brewers fan.
Fucking hate them. Suck.
I feel like we're going to hear that more than once.
Cardinals are going to Cardinal, man. I can't say enough about them. They know what they're doing. When it comes down to just getting effectively whatever they want out of a player. And then you do what they did to us when we traded to go get Loesch a few years ago. Like, the dude was pitching pretty well. Like, all right, let's get rid of him. We get Loesch. He's good for a season, and just takes a crap. So, I mean, Cardinals are they're going to be scary no matter what season they're in. It's absolutely atrocious in how good these guys can be for some reason.
John, we'll go to you. Staying in, with the rivalry teams, where do you come on the Cardinals?
I have them second in the NL Central. I still think they got some young talent on that team. It'll be interesting to see if Tommy Edman can keep that up, what he did last year. He's a very interesting player that can play multiple positions very well. Colton Wong may be the most underrated player in that entire division. Paul DeYoung, Antioch High School grad, a great young shortstop, and Paul Goldschmidt, a top 2 first baseman in baseball. The Cardinals piss me off more than any other team because of guys like Tommy Edman. That they just come out of nowhere and seem to put up, Tommy Edman put up 3.2 WAR last year
Cardinals
in 92 games.
Just a boring, generic white guy. Tommy Edman could have been created in a video game as like what happens once the players retire, and like you need these like guys just coming in with random names. That's Tommy Edman. He's just like fantastically efficient. I completely agree with you there.
Yeah. They're always going to have good pitching depth with that rotation. I think Miles Michaelis is going to have a bounce back season. Jack Flaherty with Walker Buehler and Luis Castillo are probably the best young pitchers in the National League. You still got Adam Wainwright. I really do think losing Jordan Hicks hurts. Losing a guy who can throw 104 miles an hour. Basically, he has become the new Aroldis Chapman when you're measuring pitch velocity. You have Jordan Hicks for like the top 37 or 38 pitches, and then you have a random guy in there for velocity, and he's starting to strike guys out as well.
And
so you got
today, right?
Martinez out of that closer spot. I do have him finishing second. I do have him in the wild card, and they're another. They're not a sexy team, but they're always good, and it's annoying as hell.
Fuck yeah. I hate them motherfuckers.
Is it safe to say, John, then do you have the Brewers winning the division? Because
I have the Reds winning the division.
Right, that's right. Okay. Matt, let's go to you with the Cardinals.
I mean, I'm kind of envious of the Cardinals, really, because it's like the perfect model for sustained success in the NL. The Dodgers had their down years, but one constant was always the Cardinals. I think from about 2004 up until now, the Cardinals were either always 1 or 2 every preseason before you, when you make your predictions. Just taking a look at this team, it's not like one superstar that sticks out, but it's the epitome of the parts are, the sum of the parts are greater than the part itself. Mm-hmm. And then you take a look at guys like that could come up. Dylan Carlson, a very power-packed outfielder who appears on the verge. He can make a big impact. Nolan Gorman eventually is going to come up, probably a little bit too early. And then you have Matthew Liberatore, who I really like. And, he's pretty good. But, man, I like the Cardinals a lot. I don't. For me, you could take the top 4 teams in this division, Cubs, Brewers, Cardinals, and Reds. Put them in a bag, toss it up, and it's just a matter of luck. The winner of this division is just going to be who was the healthiest and the luckiest.
If we have any Rays fans in this group, can someone tell me what the hell the Rays were thinking, giving up Matthew Liberatore for Jose Martinez?
Whoa!
It's the Rays. Yeah, they won that trade. Believe it or not, the season hasn't started. The Rays won that trade already.
I don't see it.
I can tell you exactly what they're thinking. Jose Martinez is going to hit 420 against the Yankees this year.
Yep.
That's exactly what's going to happen. We all know
Jose Martinez lost like 30 pounds, by the way.
Yeah, he's going to be – you remember – I don't know, John, how close you were paying attention, but Travis Darnaud last year against the Yankees had that one series. I was, of course, at 2 of the games where he just hit like 3 home runs. I think he hit he just obliterated the Yankees last year, just like some pile of shit player. Jose Martinez is not a pile of shit player. He's going to destroy. I guarantee you he hits some astronomically high number against the Yankees, and that'll be the sole purpose they did it.
Yeah, Jose Martinez is that guy that needed the DH. He needed to get out of the NL, and when he does, everyone adopts the NL.
Yeah, but those were big names. I'll give you that. I will not doubt the Rays in some sort of vindictive plot to try and take the East away. Henry, actually, I have a question for you, Henry, as the resident New Yorker here. Have you been to the Cardinal Stadium, Bush?
I have not. That's one of the few I have not been to.
Okay. It is the most anti-New York type stadium ever because the people are, well, first of all, they're all white, every single one. There's a place called the Barn that's next to the Cardinals Stadium. It's like their pregame place. It was like a doubt plot, except I was the minority. And I bring that up because they are the nicest human beings ever when you're at the game. And it's irritating. So anyway, I had to bring that up before you get your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the Cardinals this year?
So I definitely need to go to St. Louis and be allowed Puerto Rican, like full Puerto Rican Day parade in Madison Avenue, just like outfit, hat, everything.
The sorest of the thumbs is music out there.
I have a feeling Kramer will come out of nowhere.
Yeah, don't go to any stand-up there.
Yeah. So there's 2 things happened today for the Cardinals that I don't think are good. One is Jordan Hicks opting out. He is a type 1 diabetic, so he opted out. He was also recovering from Tommy John, as we know. Number 2 is Yadier Molina turned 38 years old.
Yes.
And you can't keep leaning on a guy that old. At some point, Father Time catches up with you. That position, I think we all agree he's been great. He's going into the Hall of Fame. But he's 38 years old, and there's really no backup plan there. And
I hate to interrupt you there, Henry, but I love Andrew Kinzer. I think Andrew Kinzer's really good.
I see, but I see a lot of places talk about they may move him. So is he going to catch long term?
Wow, I don't know. They just traded Carson Kelly to the Diamondbacks. I would find it shocking that they would trade Kinzer.
Yeah, they've got Kinsler and someone else.
Matt Wieters is a decent.
Wieters.
I forgot about Wieters. Yeah.
They've got 2 prospects though who are catchers. One of them is a Merkle Boner dynasty. That's my team. So I think they have a plan there, but Yadi is very old. To your point.
Yeah, he's 38 years old. I just like you guys said, the Cards always happen to always be there at the end. They always hover around. They'll go on a run. They make the playoffs. They're in the NLCS. We see it all the time. I don't think that's the case this year. I don't think this is the year for them. The Reds, to me, are the cream of the crop of the NL Central. Combining both of them, I'd still say the Twins. But, yeah, I don't think the Cards make the playoffs this year.
Okay, fair enough. By the way, breaking news, Byron Buxton carted off the field for the Twins, who we're going to get to in a second. And
yes.
So
yeah, that's like Harold Reynolds' favorite player ever. He always never talks about him.
Somebody check on James, because I know that's James Edwin Scott's favorite player. So somebody check on James.
He's the one who broke it.
That's a very James thing.
You mentioned in the comment section. Hey, we'll go to Rob. You can bring up the Twins. I'll finish up my thoughts on the Cardinals. I fall somewhere in there. I don't know. I have the luxury of having another week to think about this before Henry and I make our predictions. But the Cardinals, will they finish below 500? No. They've got that boring talent. There's no other way to describe the franchise and the team and the roster and the players on it than boring talent. They could pull some guy with some dumb last name who's going to have a great season pitching-wise and join Flaherty. I'm sure Flaherty, even though he threw 1 million innings and pitched his ass off, won't have any sort of repercussions like every other team does with young pitchers. He'll be fine. And then you've got, the bullpen, like Andrew Miller's 100 years old. He'll still pitch well. And Gallegos, look, Cashman doesn't lose many trades, and I'm not ready to say he lost this one, but I'm not a Luke Voigt fan, and Gallegos has turned himself into a great reliever. I think it's a wash, but he's a great reliever right now. Ponce de Leon, big name that I think has settled into a role there. And, Molina is old. I think he's well past his prime. They do have Wieters. I don't know if Wieters is any sort of alleviation there, but they do have, of course, they have top prospects behind that who could replace him. Goldschmidt, boring. Colton Wong, like John said, super, super underrated, at least for his defense. Then you've got Tommy Edman and Matt Carpenter, generic white guys. You've got Paul John, generic white guy. Brad Miller, saying he went to Clemson. That's about the most interesting thing. I'm a big Lane Thomas, Tyler O'Neill fan. But yeah, I mean, they are what they are. They're a well-oiled machine. They will be in second or better. Whether that means they're going to win the division or not, I guess we'll have to find out for my thoughts. But it seems like that's where we kind of fall. As everyone kind of feels like they're around that second place. So let's go to the Twins.
I just want to touch on something real quick that John said. He called Colton Wong the most underrated player in the National League. I disagree with that. I think that goes to his teammate, Paul DeJong.
Paul DeJong. You could put Vince mentioned Paul Goldschmidt up there with his defense. Bringing in Paul Goldschmidt took one of the worst defensive infields in baseball and made them into one of the best defensive infields in baseball because Paul Goldschmidt is saving so many errors over there at first base. He makes those guys look good.
Reminds me a lot when Mark Teixeira extended Derek Jeter's career at shortstop. They brought in Teixeira, and he started cleaning up a lot of the mess with the Yankees infield, and obviously it turned into one of the greatest infields ever. But a solid glove first baseman goes a long way, and Harrison Bader could very well also be that guy. Like, that's just what the Cardinals are, is they just have names and these names and these names who just, they never have like a top prospect in baseball. I think Oscar Taveras was the closest I remember, and obviously we don't know what he would have become. But they never seem to have that absolute top prospect. It's always some guy who was like fringy, and then he becomes just a rock solid player. So
yeah,
that's the Cardinals. We'll see how they go. The Twins, probably a more inconsistent story than the Cardinals. It seems that they are a great team one year, not great the next. Last year was one of their great years, won over 100 games. I heard from plenty of fans, from plenty of fan bases, they're going to make a run in the playoffs. This was the best Twins team ever. And then the Yankees destroyed them like they're a little league team, like they do every time they play. So Here we are, 2020, Twins reloading. Not good off the bat with Byron Buxton hurt. But let's look at their schedule here. They start off with the Cubs, I guess, for a day. And then, that's exhibition. Then they go to the White. So they start off with the White Sox, Cardinals, Indians, before getting to the Pirates and Royals for a break. So a little bit of a rough start, not too long. And then you look over to September. Again, it's a pretty balanced schedule. I don't think there's anything there that's an incredibly long stretch of difficult teams, at least on paper. Henry, let's start with you. I know you're a big guy with the Twins this year. Why don't you explain to us what the Love Fest is all about?
I look at the schedule. I look at that lineup. I think that lineup is just – they're going to mash and mash and mash. They mashed last year, and I think they're going to just do more than they did last year. They get on base. They drive runs in. They hit for average. I look at that August schedule, and they're going to be like Pac-Man. They're just going to eat all the dots. You have, 4 games against the Pirates, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 against 8, 9 games against the Royals. Then you have 2 games against they're going to swallow that division in August, in my opinion. They are the cream of the crop to me.
Will they lose to the Yankees in 3 or 4 games?
They'll make it interesting and make it 4. But I also think the Twins, I like their rotation. I think they're a team that will do something funky, like go out, and if like Texas has a bad start, they'll go grab a Corey Kluber at the trade deadline and add to that rotation. There's guys out there. There's guys that are going to be out there like Kluber that, you put them on the Twins and it goes a long way.
I don't know that Odorizzi has the same season he did last year, but he is back. Berrios obviously at the top. Do Maeda and Bailey move the needle for you at all?
Yeah, I think Maeda moves it very much. He's not going to be the Maeda you saw in LA. I don't think we're going to see that from him ever. Sub 2.5 ERA, but I think he slots in very nice with Barrios there. Barrios is going to probably have that year we've been waiting for him to have. That Cy Young type year that we know his stuff can generate. That lineup is deep. They have Donaldson, they have Marwin Gonzalez, Jorge Polanco.
Yeah,
I laugh. I see Jay Cave, but Jay Cave has put together a couple of nice seasons. Max Kepler. People forget Max Kepler killed it last year.
I'm still looking at the Devin Smeltzer, interesting name this year. I think he could step up in a pretty big way. They also have Rich Hill and Michael Pineda, so plenty of
Pineda's coming back from suspension. I forgot about Pineda coming back from his suspension. And the ageless one, the Nelson Cruz, is their DH. I mean,
yeah. So let's kick it over to Matt. This is your division again. Twins, maybe your biggest competition. What are your thoughts on the Twins?
Well, I think we need to touch on the headline of what James brought to the table. If Buxton's out, that's a huge – I mean, that's the Grand Canyon-sized hole because you have a Gold Glove center fielder and you have no one that has his skill set on that team right now. And then Henry brought up Kluber, and I'm going to touch on their pitching in a minute, but Royce Lewis has been a massive disappointment in his time in the minors. There's nothing that shows in his minor league career that he can hit major league pitching because he can't hit minor league pitching. Alex Krylov had one huge year. I believe it was 2018 where he really turned a lot of heads and like, man, Krylov's going to be really good. He really fell off last year. I don't love Trevor Larnach. So I don't think the prospects are there to land a big-time pitcher because I know the Dodgers with their loaded pitching staff, but there's probably still in the market for a starting pitcher. But that's besides the point. Let's talk about Jake Odorizzi, a benefactor of playing in shitty weather in Minnesota. He's not going to have that cushion of playing in 20-degree days in Minneapolis when the weather sucks. I don't like him. I don't think his stuff is that good, and I don't think it's going to play that well in a 60-game season when the weather's going to be nice to start off the season. I don't trust Pineda. I don't think Pineda's that good. And then we start taking a look at the rest of their staff. Maeda, I mean, he's going to be playing in more homer-friendly parks outside of Coors Field than he played in L.A. He's got to go to Cleveland, which is easy to hit home runs with that right field porch. I mean, the U.S. Cellular Field or Guaranteed Rate Field, now that's a bandbox. Easy to slug home runs out of there. Comerica's a little deeper, so I think that will give him a little bit of a cushion. But I don't like Maeda in this division at all. I think he's going to struggle more so than he did in the NL West. Kyle Gibson, I don't even know if he's that good. So I think there's more questions in that rotation. And then that bullpen's garbage. I mean, some people may like it, but I think they benefited from being up by 6 and 7 runs so many times that the bullpen never was put in a stressful situation until they got slaughtered by the Yankees in the playoffs. So
right.
This Buxton situation is huge. That changes my entire outlook. I mean, I think that moves up the White Sox to take this division if they want it. If they play well enough, that Buxton injury is huge.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, they're spoken like a true division rival there. Matt does not have a lot of a positive outlook on anything about them. They added Josh Donaldson. Should add that in. That was probably the biggest bet they had. I mean, they added Josh Donaldson to Henry's point to a team that broke the home run record last year. So.
Yeah, offensively they're loaded. You don't have to worry about them scoring runs, but defensively and then pitching wise, they're going to give up a lot of runs too.
Yeah. What do you think, John?
I think you're right. Hit it right on there. Pitching depth is one thing that they don't have. They have a lot of offensive depth, but not a lot of pitching depth. And I think what you guys started out talking here, if you pull a random Minnesota Twins fan off the street and ask them what they want out of this season, if they have two options to miss the playoffs or play the Yankees in the first round, I think they're going to choose to miss the playoffs because it would be the same result. Yeah, so I don't know. I am not as high as Henry is on them. I could see them finishing third in the division, and I could see the White Sox taking the division. I could also see them winning it if they score enough runs. I mean, Rich Hill is 1,000 years old. and they may have to have him be a fifth starter in this rotation. There's just not much depth after you get, Jose Barrios is a great pitcher, but do they have a legit number two? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think if they have an Achilles heel, it's going to be the pitching. The Twins' best hope, and I'll say this right off the bat, is that the Yankees or the Twins win home field advantage this year, because then you're not playing in that short 5-game series, and that's kind of new territory for both teams. They don't play I don't think they've played at all in a 7-game series. So he's been the wild card play-in or a 5-game series. So Twins' best hope is that the Astros don't win home field, which is, or someone else comes out of nowhere to win home field. But I'm with you. I mean, my thoughts on the Twins in general are that, they're going to slug a lot of home runs. They've got plenty of talent to do that. They've got even their prospects are guys who can still hit like 30, 40 home runs. I don't love them as hitters. I think a lot of them have holes in their game, but they can still slug. I mean, they can mash. My thing is, in a 60-game season, I don't know if the pitching depth matters as much when you have an established offense like the Twins do. I think they can mash their way to the division, especially the Central, which has 3 teams who could win the division, but none of them are a particular huge threat. Like, I wouldn't have predicted any of these teams to win 100 games in normal season. So I don't know what to expect there. I'm not going to make a prediction on it officially, but that's all I'll say is the bats may be enough for the Twins to win the division because they're so potent. But Jeff, let's get your thoughts here. Do you have thoughts on the Twins? Are they kind of on your radar just because you're going to have to play them a few times?
Yeah, they're going to have to be on my radar. We got to play these guys, I think with our bullpen, man, we've got a good chance that we could take a couple of games out of the series against these guys. But I mean, Henry is not wrong when they've got all these bats, the huge bombs, like everyone's been saying. To what you said, breaking the all-time home run record. That's a lot of stuff to worry about. But then on the back end of that, you've got so some of the big names that kind of shine out to me, like Sergio Romo. He's a decent reliever. I've used him for fantasy a few times, and he's always come out pretty clutch for me. But besides that, I mean, you've got Ken Maeda's been pretty decent. Odorizzi's one of the more shiny ones to stare at, I guess. But really, the black eye is like Homer Bailey. Like, that dude's a million years old, and I don't ever remember a time that he's ever been good.
Never trust a pitcher named Homer.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's I think Bailey is rookie year, and to your point, probably not since then. Let's get into we've kind of covered the teams at this point. I want to use the last few minutes here. Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to touch on something Matt said. I know the loss of Buxton is huge, but I looked it up, and Kepler played 459 innings in center field, and he held it down pretty damn well. He had 4 defensive runs saved. His UZR is 2.8. I think he can step in and fill in for center field.
But then you lose your right fielder.
No, I think we need to know more on this injury. It just, as we're on the show, it broke, but I think Kepler can hold down center field for any team. Honestly, that dude is special.
Yeah, I agree with that, Henry.
If it's a long-term injury, I get Matt's point, though. I mean, Buxton's
we need more info on this injury for sure.
He's more than just a center fielder. He's also he adds an element for sure. Mm-hmm. Let's finish up here, guys. Let's get your predictions real quick. John, we'll start with you. Just give me real quick your AL and NL Central winner predictions.
Chicago White Sox and Cincinnati Reds.
Okay, Jeff.
As far as what? Sorry, I'm not paying attention.
AL and NL division winners.
Well, I'm always going to go with my team, so I'm always going to pick mine. And then probably AL, I don't know. That's going to be a tough one. There's a lot going on, but I'm going to have to say Yankees on that one.
Did you say Yankees?
Central.
Yeah. AL Central specifically.
Oh, sorry. I'm spaced. I'm a space cadet here, man.
No worries.
Dutch on the left-hand side.
I mean, Twins are pretty solid. I mean, I think they're a dark horse, but definitely with the bats that they have, they have the talent to do it. So, I mean, I'll go with that.
Twins, Brewers, Matt.
So I'm going to start with the NL Central because that's going to be easier. I think I'm going to go with the Reds. I'll ride the Reds in the NL. AL, man, so I got to pick 2. if the Twins have Buxton and it's not a serious injury, I think the Twins win the division. If Buxton is out, I think it's the White Sox.
Oh man, Matt making those hipster picks. Right, riding both dark horses. I like it. Okay, good. Well, thank you guys for joining. Obviously, very informative stuff. Central Division to me, probably the most intrigue because you can look at 7 of the 10 teams and they can win the division, which is kind of crazy. And you can probably look at like 8 of those 10 teams and say that there's a scenario they can make the playoffs. So it's going to be an interesting division to watch. There's going to be a lot of dongs, which Dong City likes, that are going to come out of both divisions. And I thank you guys for joining us. And next week, for those of you paying attention, we're going to move on to the West.
Hey.
And hopefully see more of those, the little baseball life banners in the background.
That's right. I couldn't find a good place to hang it up. I'm sorry, Henry, but thank you so much. This is going up in my classroom at school.
Oh, man. There we go.
Awesome. So next week we will have the West, both AL and NL. We're going to have some more guests just like this. Thank you, John, representing the Cubs. Thank you, Jeff, representing the Brewers. Thank you, Matt, representing the White Sox. And like I said, next week, West. And then, guys, we got baseball in 10 days. And exactly in 10 days, I will talk so much shit, this show will go on for 17 hours once we have the first pitch of the season for all of the COVID truthers out there. So I'm excited for that. 2 shows next week. We'll get to the same one, though, Monday, 7 p.m., your West Showdown. Thank you guys for joining. This has been Dong City.
As always, Dong City, bitches.
Dong City.